welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this Monday Night Football NFL Showdown slate on Draftkings and Fanduel for Week 4. Excited to get into the breakdown. Hopefully you guys did have a profitable Week 4 NFL DFS campaign here. If you didn't, I'm going to go ahead and try to win you some of that money back in the Showdown slate, get you guys in the green as always on this channel. Quick reminder that if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll be here all NFL DFS season, breaking down these NFL DFS slates to help you guys become better NFL DFS players, help you guys win some money. And if you are getting very serious about NFL DFS, I would highly recommend my NFL DFS premium packages. Link below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that you use in my own NFL DFS lineups, projections, top tax tools, all that fun stuff for the main slate. And let's go ahead and start breaking down this one. So, on DraftKings, we'll talk about DraftKings first. We'll touch on some FanDuel after. Obviously, two different formats here. The top guy that I have for a projection standpoint, I'm sure he's going to be very popular, is Justin Herbert, taking on this Las Vegas Raiders team. He has thrown a bunch these first 3 weeks, 47, 41, and 38 pass attempts over the first 3 weeks, and it's aligning for him to possibly be the highest scoring guy again in this game, with his team having the higher total of a 27.25 implied total. With a 3-point spread, they're expected to get ahead, and of course it could be through him. But as mentioned in the top of this video, I do think that something interesting to point out is both of these secondaries do look very, very good. Both have a lot of talent back there, especially on the Raiders side with guys like Casey Hayward Jr., Nate Hobbs, and Trayvon Mullen. They are not a slouch as far as coverage is concerned. And when you're factoring in these big weeks from Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, they might not exactly have the same success that they've had in these first 3 weeks, taking on defenses that were much weaker opponents. And that's something I think that we could maybe leverage here. Mike Williams continues to be obviously a great play overall as far as target share and everything. 9, 10, 12 targets through the first 3 weeks, continuing to get the job done, scoring and finding pay dirt every single week, 1, and 2 touchdowns. And he continues to see a bunch of targets as well in this offense. Him alongside with Keenan Allen, I think it's very obvious where the ball is going. Looking at my key data sheet here as far as their snap share percentage, target share percentage, Keenan Allen is seeing 27.27% of this team's targets, and Mike Williams is seeing 25.62% of the targets. So between the two of them, they're making up 50% of the overall target share on this offense. It makes it very easy to know where the ball is going as far as if you're stacking this team up with Herbert. And then, of course, if you're going to get contrarian here, I do think that the tight ends on both sides are really interesting in this slate. And obviously, we're talking about the Chargers first here. That's going to start with Mr. Cook. As far as his price over here on DraftKings, 6'6" in the captain spot. He's not exactly the most high-targeted tight end in the league, but like I said, I think that this could be a funnel game maybe where this secondary kind of forces the ball to go his way more often. If you look at the matchups overall, both tight ends on both sides have by far the best matchup. Jared Cook showing a 25% matchup advantage overall with this Las Vegas linebackers core. Not really going to be an issue, I think, getting by them, and I think that these could have much more success than the wide receivers. And with that being said, I do think that Austin Eckler could have much more success too. Both of these teams, if you're looking at how they fared as far as defensively on the season, they've both done a lot better covering against the wide receiver QB position as opposed to the running back. Chargers are currently the 8th best team to target in terms of running backs. The Raiders are currently the 14th best team to target. And when you're looking at Austin Eckler in this offensive line, they have a huge matchup advantage against this Las Vegas defensive line, currently showing them having a 40% run block advantage over the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think that this is going to be a game where we definitely want to be taking a hard look to Austin Eckler, especially if the chalk build is going to be going to the pass game, building lineups with Herbert and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I think that we could pivot and go to Austin Eckler at the running back position, number 1, and then, of course, Jared Cook as well that I talked about, I think is in a much friendlier position than these wideouts are, to be honest with you. So as far as the Chargers side, that's where I'd be looking to for the most part. Those are the guys that I'm really interested in. Like I said, I do think it's a priority to be prioritizing Austin Eckler over these pass catchers for me. That's going to be the script that I'm going with here. And as far as how these guys are grading out in my projections and everything, that kind of follows suit for the most part. I do like Austin Eckler more from a straight projection aspect as well over these wide receivers. And then I think Jared Cook is a great value to be pivoting off those wideouts. So that's kind of my approach on the Las Vegas side. And I'm sorry, the LA Chargers side, and then pivoting over to the Las Vegas side. Derek Carr has been tremendous from a fantasy point aspect as far as his volume and stuff. 56, 37, 43 attempts, and he's currently leading the league in overall air yards per game. Pulling up my chart here that I always like to go to, my key stats for QBs. He's really standing out. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous as far as his air yards per game. Currently sitting at 232 air yards per game, 5.11 air yards per attempt. He's got a great protection rate from this offensive line as far from a passing aspect. Like I said, the run game, I'm not too excited about this. Well, I actually haven't touched on that yet, but I will say Josh Jacobs is the big injury news that we're waiting on here. He's questionable. Apparently, he was spotted participating in practice on Saturday. If he's out, we're going to continue to see Peyton Barber continue to carry the load. He did have a big game last week, but I don't think that's going to be the same case this week. Last week, he had a much easier matchup taking on a Miami Dolphins team, 23 attempts, 111 yards on the ground. He did look great, but I just think that looking at this matchup overall for these Raiders, I mean, they're not panning out too well from an offensive line aspect compared to the Chargers front line. Not looking good at a negative 8% run block advantage for Peyton Barber. So I think the game script is going to be that these Chargers get ahead in the game. The Las Vegas Raiders are going to have to throw from behind. And with that being said, of course, I'm going to have interest in Derek Carr and these pass-catching options. And the top guy that I'm have interest in, I already mentioned it, but I have interest in these tight ends, is going to be Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is in a great spot here to have a big game. When you're looking at the matchup charts overall on my Patreon here as far as how these teams have fared, the Chargers' biggest weakness has been against the tight end position. Now, you can make an argument that they're probably going to make a big incentive to take away Darren Waller, really make it a priority, but this guy's target and his volume and share in this offense is absolutely ridiculous from a tight end aspect. Looking at my snap count data overall for Mr. Darren Waller, he's seeing 25.58% of his team's targets overall, and just a bunch of targets going his way. As far as on the season, we saw him see 19 targets in week 1, 7 targets in week 2, 7 targets in week 3, a total of 33 targets. I mean, he's seeing 11 targets per game over that last 3. Darren Waller is not exactly your classic tight end guy. He's practically wide receiver that plays the tight end position. And like I said, I think that there's one kryptonite in this defense. It has been the tight end position so far. And Darren Waller is a guy that I'm going to have a lot of interest on this slate. I think from a game script perspective, a matchup perspective, all of the above. I expect the Raiders to get down in this game early on. I think they're going to have to throw behind. And I think Darren Waller is going to be the guy that can maybe lead them back. So I have a lot of interest in him. I think you could even play him in the captain spot on Draftkings. So we'll do a little bit of a lineup build here soon. But I like him. Henry Ruggs, from an upside aspect, he's been seeing a ton of targets down the field, long targets overall. Looking at my wide receiver key stats tool over here on Patreon, Henry Ruggs currently seeing 21.54 yards per reception, 17.31 average target distance. So this guy's just an absolute burner down the field. If I'm targeting a guy that's going to be, behind in this game and the high upside, it's going to be Henry Ruggs. I mean, you can make an argument that some of these other wide receivers seeing more of a target share. Looking at the target share overall in this offense, Hunter Renfrow seeing 17.05% of the team's targets. Henry Ruggs seeing 14.73%. And then Darren Waller at the top with the 25.58% target share. Bryan Edwards seeing the least amount with only a 10%. So as far as ranking them as far as that in that order, I do think that it is going to be similar to that as far as from a target share aspect. But like I said, when you're getting down in the game, they're definitely going to have to probably go and take their shots on the field. And I think for that reason, that Ruggs could be that guy. Followed by Renfrow, my interest, and then Bryan Edwards, probably the third guy that I'd be looking to overall from just the target aspect and the volume. And then, of course, this Chargers secondary is elite, like I mentioned. I think it's just not going to be the easiest matchup for either side, really. You got Asante Samuel Jr., Trayvon Campbell, both tremendous cover cornerbacks. Michael Davis is the worst kryptonite of this Chargers D, so I guess you could make a bigger argument for the slot and Renfrow. Maybe he's the top guy from a matchup aspect that could really burn these guys, and for that reason, you can make an argument that he could be your top priority as far as maybe being able to find some pay dirt in this one. But overall, I think Ruggs has more upside. If you're playing from a pure aspect of upside, that's kind of my approach. And that's honestly how you're looking to on both sides. I mean, I think I kind of explained how I expect this game to go. I'm definitely not as interested in these wideouts and stuff from an ownership perspective. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a showdown slate. Someone has to score. But from a game theory aspect, if I'm looking at this game and how it can get different, I think that would be it. Maybe prioritize more of the tight ends. And I mean, we could do a little bit of a quick build here. In the captain spot, I said I really like Darren Waller. They're going to get down in this game. I think he's going to be prioritized in a major way, throwing him the ball. So I like him a lot. We'll go ahead and captain him. I like Austin Eckler on the Chargers side. I mentioned that they're going to be I think running it early and often here because I think that their advantage on the O-line is a big deal. You could definitely pair him up with Herbert because Austin Eckler is definitely a pass-catching running back as well. That's the other thing on DraftKings. You get the PPR format, so I like that. I do like the tight end play in Jared Cook, like I said. I think he'll get plenty of targets. And then you could run it back with maybe a Hunter Renfrow here, that 5.8. That leaves you with another 5K. You could put in like a Bryan Edwards, and that's an example of a lineup that you could be running, similar to the game script of what I've been discussing. Of course, maybe try to get a Derek Carr in there if you can at the QB position, but overall, it's proven on Showdown slate that in the captain spot, it's actually oftentimes not the QB. You can use him in the flex to try to get some of that leverage and correlation on the run back, but for the most part, I think we're going to want to be going with a non-QB in our MVP and our flex spots. In our MVP and our captain spots on the various sites. Fanduel, obviously, a completely different ballgame. Much different build over here. Pretty much you just need all the top scoring players, and you need the top scoring player in your MVP slot on the slate. So it's really that simple. I talked about liking Austin Eckler, talked a lot about liking Darren Waller. So in this case, let's go ahead and say, you can play Eckler or Waller in the captain spot. I'd be having a lot of interest in those guys. And then as far as the rest of the lineup, looking to get up in the game, we talked about Derek Carr leading in air yards. If they're going to throw from behind, throw him in there. Henry Ruggs at 11K, talked about his upside. That leaves us with 6,500. I'm not getting too intrigued about anyone down here, so that's a little bit of a scary 6,500 play. So I'd probably want to drop down at some point here, go to a Jared Cook at 7,500, and then Henry Ruggs. That leaves us with 10K instead of Henry Ruggs, maybe going to a Hunter Renfrow. That makes a lot of sense to me as a build right there. So there's an example of something you could maybe be looking to. You get up in the game big with Austin Eckler scoring multiple touchdowns. He's going to be running a lot up ahead in the game, and then Waller, Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, you get the run back options. That's kind of where I'd be going to on this slate. That's what's making the most sense to me, and that's my overall breakdown of this Monday Night Football Showdown slate. I definitely think we got some good ideas in here. You can make an argument with both of these secondaries on DraftKings. You could do more of a kicker and defense and special teams build. Overall, maybe play both of these kickers and just expect it to be a really low-scoring game, and then both of the running backs, maybe just an ugly game. Put Austin Eckler in there and put Peyton Barber maybe. But, the chances of that winning you a tournament aren't the highest, but it is a contrarian build, and you have to get different on these Showdown slates if you're going to be winning the #1 spot without tying with 100 other people, 700 other people, because let's be honest, it can be a little bit difficult to get different, but those are some of the ideas I had. To get different, those are the guys that I like on this slate, and that's my overall breakdown. If you did enjoy the content and point in this video, if you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It does greatly help me hitting that like button. Takes 2 seconds. It's free. This content's free. I'll be here all NFL DFS season long. And then, as I mentioned, if you are getting very serious, I do offer some paid content. I also do offer some membership options. That's down next to the subscribe button. If you happen to win a lot of money off my picks or something, you want to show some support that way, that's greatly appreciated. All optional, though. Like button's free. Appreciate you guys. Wish you the best of luck on this Monday Night Football Showdown slate, and we will see you in the next one.